Good morning. This is Angela with today's cup of tea. Wow. Very, very simple topic that is so overly complex that we're weeding through and siphoning through all of this gunk to get through to the pure essence of the whole thing. And that is a part of what we are experiencing as duality. I've talked about this before and how we have done that. That's been such a huge, huge experience for this existence. We have embraced duality. We have done every possible facet of it. And now we're done with it. We're getting to the point of resolving it and letting it go, letting go of having to exist that way and live that way in these experiences. But when you look at it from a very particular standpoint, what I'm talking about today is the perception of of the good or bad, that there is a good or bad, or right or wrong, or good or evil, and how that is a part of the lesson duality where that we are dissolving and releasing. So when we get into this conversation, which I do fairly often, many times a person, when they're first grasping this concept, they say, "Well, I don't understand." If you're saying there's no good or bad, no right or wrong, and we live from that premise, then what would prevent everybody from, say, like pillaging and raping and killing and hurting each other? And it's really actually very simple. I was made to understand, and I fully believe this and feel this from my heart, that the only absolute in this universe is love. And when you come from that premise, and you come from the premise that the highest and best, most awesome thing we can do is to release all judgment within ourselves, to clean out all the muck under the bridge that we have accumulated through the ego over centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries, and let it go. And we can live from love, and that we love ourselves as the divine, that we are so in coming from love within ourselves, that we raise the vibration of others, but we also understand that our oneness is also from love. And when you do that and you say, okay, well, I love myself so wholeheartedly and completely, without judgment, full acceptance, and embracing myself, and you are another form of me, why would I ever, ever, ever try to hurt you in any way? And then we get into the whole, then the next step is the part of the conversation of, well, but then the concept of hurting, the perception of hurting, is also another perception. And if we come from that purity of intention and that purity of heart, and all I'm doing is coming to the table with love for myself and love for you, and why would I want to do anything else or anything harmful? That is the best basis for us to change the way we live and change the way we look at things. Because I'm like, if we all came from that perspective, well, then that would change everything. And so the next response to that comes from the ego, and the ego says, but that had never happened. That had never happened, because before that happened, look at how many people would be killed and hurt and everything else. Well, not particularly. Because once we actually do clear ourselves and do the work, because we've got to do the work to clear all this out. Once we clear all of it out, and we can come from true love and full acceptance and embracing of ourselves, then it's very easy to change the way we look at things. And if we can do that, things could change instantaneously. So one of the things to let go of in this process is the releasing of the perception of good and bad, or right and wrong, and the judgment, because the judgment for others comes from the judgment within ourselves, and the judgment within ourselves comes from what we've been taught by others is good or bad, or right and wrong. And it's so funny, because I'm like, well, so what says this is wrong? What says this is a wrong thing? You get this, you ask 5 people what is wrong, or what is bad, or what is evil, and 5 different people will give you 5 different answers. If you look at it from the perspective of, it is the man-made institutions and belief systems and organized religion and all that kind of stuff that determine and that tell us what is right and wrong, that tell us that there is a right and wrong, then we start having judgment. And the only judgment we have is within ourselves. Many times we're judging others because of judgments we have within ourselves. So it does really truly back up to the concept of being able to accept and embrace who we are completely and embrace all facets without judgment. So, it's funny. Some people talk about, I do some house clearing things or whatever, and I have come across some dark entities. And someone asked me, well, doesn't that scare you? People ask me, doesn't that scare you? And I'm like, no, because here's the thing. When you change that perception, when you come from the perception of this, you are just another version of me going through a whole list of experiences that you have chosen just as well as the ones that I have chosen. I'm doing mine. There's no difference between you and me and this dark entity that is lost or going through a period of some kind of experience or some kind of lesson that it intends on having. Well, that doesn't make it wrong. That just makes it on its path, allows it to be on its path. So when I can come from that perspective and I give it, and I just send it love and gratitude and understanding that because if we are all one, well, then that is a part of me as much as you are a part of me and as much as I am a part of me. So then I can just send it love and gratitude for taking on that part of the journey, and then there's no fear, there's no anxiety, there's no judgment as to, the fear comes from what? Oh my gosh, this thing is going to hurt me. Well, here's the thing. If I believe that I'm truly divine and all powerful and limitless, what's going to hurt me? Nothing. See what I'm saying? How this just turns about our perspective and starts to make us look at things differently. So when you start seeing stuff that you say that's wrong, or, you start making a judgment, it's so funny because I always see this, and this so happens in the spiritual world as much, if not even more, than and all the other parts of our civilization and our parts of consciousness, even though spirituality is all of it. But you understand what I mean. But when you look at it, even just looking up on Facebook, people will be like, oh, well, this person's right or this person's crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. Different perceptions bring about different answers. Different experiences bring about different answers. So whether or not I agree with somebody doesn't mean that they're right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and they're wrong. It just means we have different perspectives. We're coming at it and we're seeing it from a different set of experiences and from a different path. So that's really something to be cautious about. Like I said, whenever you hear the term you must, you have to, you can't, that is a judgment of some sort that's sort of built into there because of an expectation of how things have to be done. And that if they're not done that way, the implication is that it's wrong. See what I'm saying? That has to go with everything. It's so funny. Ask two different people, ask, do you believe that same-sex marriage is okay? And some will say, yeah, and some will say, heck no. And if you ask the person that says, heck no, you ask why. Well, a lot of times they say, well, the Bible says you can't do that, or, some other doctrine or something that says that it can't be recognized. And who created marriage? Who created what the definition of relationships are? Man did. People did. The ego did, because the ego, all right, so in this particular case, the ego has created an institution saying that you must love me over everyone else, and that is an egoic thing, because we're supposed to love everyone equally to this infinite degree. And so when you limit yourself saying, well, I have to love you, so now you're saying that I have to love somebody of the opposite gender. I have to love someone of the same gender, or whatever. I have to love somebody. It's the same as saying I have to love someone who's in the same religion or has the same background or has the same kind of family background. That's the same thing, just given in different contexts. So there's so much attached to this. Whenever you come back to something and you are judging based on anything else, again, now you're disempowering yourself because you're letting somebody else tell you what is right and wrong, that there is a right and wrong. And when you come from love and saying, What does it matter? Because if the person's coming from love, then they're coming from love. And if they're not, well, then they don't need to be in my reality because I'm coming from love. That's just the way you start looking at the world. And when we can start looking at the world that way and accept each other as we are in this moment, as perfect beings of the divinity that we are, it changes so much. So, wow, already 10.5 minutes. I'm going to do the clearing for today. So the clearing, if you would like all of the following without trauma, drama, and illness, without recreating a situation for illustration or experience, and all with ease and grace and balance and harmony and joy, fun, excitement, adventure, humor, and love. All versions of you, all times, all places, and to the ever-expanding universe, and to infinity and beyond, and to get all this information via only instantaneous and comprehensive download with fully conscious understanding right now in the moment of this version of you. To receive creator's truth and understanding on right versus wrong, the concept of right versus wrong, the concept of good versus bad, or the concept of good versus evil, and where that comes from, what the perspective is versus the truth. To bring forward the collaboration of lessons that you've had in regards to this have caused your perception of good and bad, or good and evil, and right and wrong, and to resolve and complete all those lessons via the downloads now without having to experience anymore, to understand where that came from, the perspective versus the truth, and what happened in all of those, perspective versus truth, and to pull any and all beliefs along the lines of there is a wrong, there is a bad, there is an evil. I can judge. I should judge others. I should judge myself. Pull all those. Pull all the underlying self-limiting thoughts, words, and actions that from the cellular level that come from those beliefs and all of that experience. Transform it to Creator's light, send it back to Creator. Close those receptors absolutely and permanently. And open new ones. Saturate the cells with the highest vibration of Creator's unconditional love. Download the beliefs. All is good. All is right. All comes from love. I come from love. I come from acceptance. I embrace myself. I embrace others. I embrace our path. Everything related to that. And all the feelings associated with that, including that you are worthy, deserving, and able to, that it is okay, possible, allowed, and safe to, that you're ready, willing, and able to, and you have that in your life right now. And to write this off as complete in the Akashic Records, clear the timelines in all directions to infinity with the violet and platinum flames, and offer to all ancestors and descendants if they so choose to accept. If you would like that, take a deep breath, open your mind to receive, and just say, yes, acceptance. And that's it. Way over today. Have a great one. We'll talk to you later in the week. This is Angela with today's Cup of Tea.